Have you ever wondered if there are mistakes in the Bible? Or perhaps you've noticed some contradictions in the Bible that don't quite add up? You're not alone. For centuries, scholars, theologians, and everyday readers have grappled with these questions. Are there inconsistencies in the Bible that we aren't told about? Or is the Bible as flawless as many claim? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most controversial aspects of religious study, figures in the Bible whose stories raise more questions than answers. We'll explore some of the most debated personalities and the potential contradictions in the New Testament and beyond. Is it possible that there are errors in the Bible, or are these perceived inconsistencies just misunderstandings of historical and cultural contexts? From Noah to King David to Judas Iscariot, these figures have sparked intense debate and reflection. Could their stories hold clues to the Bible's true nature? And if there are problems in the Bible, what do they mean for believers today? But it doesn't stop there. Contradictions in the Bible have led many to rethink their understanding of faith. For example, how can two different Gospels provide differing accounts of the same event? Could this suggest deeper inconsistencies in the Bible? And if so, what does that mean for the belief that the Bible is inerrant and without error? Stay with us as we uncover the layers of biblical contradictions and explore what scholars and theologians have debated for centuries. Is the Bible contradictory? If you've ever questioned the authenticity of the Scriptures, this video is for you. Let's begin with one of the most well-known figures in the Bible, Noah. His story is familiar to many, the man chosen by God to build an ark and save the world's creatures from a catastrophic flood. But here's the catch. There seem to be contradictions in the Bible surrounding his story. In Genesis 6, Noah is described as a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time. However, later in the story, we find Noah drunk and disgraced. How does a man chosen to carry out such a divine task end up in such a humiliating position? Furthermore, the flood narrative itself has been a topic of intense debate. Many ask if the story was inspired by older flood myths, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, and wonder, are there mistakes in the Bible regarding the origins of these stories? Could this be one of the Bible's inconsistencies that has been glossed over for centuries? Additionally, scholars have pointed out that there appear to be two conflicting flood narratives woven into one. In one version, Noah takes 2 of every kind of animal aboard the ark. Yet, in another, he is instructed to take 7 pairs of clean animals. These contradictions have led many to ask, is the Bible consistent in its storytelling, or do these differing accounts indicate errors in the Bible? And what about the flood itself? Some argue that the timeline of the flood doesn't match up. Was it 40 days or 150 days? These discrepancies force us to confront the uncomfortable possibility of contradictions in the Bible that have been passed down through centuries of interpretation. As we dig deeper into Noah's story, it becomes clear that these apparent inconsistencies in the Bible raise important questions about how we interpret sacred texts. Is it possible to have faith in the Bible despite these contradictions, or do they reveal fundamental problems in the Bible that we should explore further? Next, we turn to one of the Bible's most revered and, yet, controversial figures, King David. Many know David as the heroic slayer of Goliath, the poet behind the Psalms, and the king who unified Israel. But David's story is far from perfect. He was involved in adultery with Bathsheba and even orchestrated the murder of her husband, Uriah. These actions have led many to question the narrative. How can a man after God's own heart also commit such heinous acts? This brings us to another crucial question. Does the Bible contradict itself in its portrayal of David? While he is lauded as a righteous king, his story is filled with moral failings. Some scholars argue that these contradictions highlight the Bible's attempt to present its characters as flawed humans, while others point to potential errors in the Bible that arise when trying to reconcile these two aspects of David's life. Moreover, the contradictions in the Gospels about how Jesus, a descendant of David, fulfills prophecies, continue to be hotly debated. For instance, the genealogies of Jesus presented in Matthew and Luke vary significantly. Is the Bible consistent in portraying the lineage of Jesus, Or could these genealogical discrepancies reveal deeper contradictions in the New Testament? Even beyond his personal failings, David's military campaigns raise ethical dilemmas. Some passages depict David as merciful, while others describe brutal conquests. This further complicates his legacy. Was he truly a righteous king, or are these conflicting depictions yet another sign of inconsistencies in the Bible? David's legacy forces us to look deeper into whether the Bible is truly inerrant or if there are underlying contradictions in the Bible that complicate its message. His story reminds us that even revered figures can have complex, morally ambiguous narratives. How do we reconcile these Bible contradictions with the broader themes of faith? Few figures in the Bible stir as much controversy as Judas Iscariot, the man who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. But the story of Judas is riddled with contradictions in the New Testament, leading many to ask, is the Bible contradictory in how it portrays his betrayal? In the Gospel of Matthew, Judas is overcome with guilt after betraying Jesus and hangs himself. Yet in the book of Acts, we are told that Judas bought a field with the blood money and died after falling headlong and bursting open. These two accounts are often pointed to as clear contradictions in the Bible that have yet to be satisfactorily explained. Was Judas acting out of his own free will, or was he a necessary pawn in God's divine plan? The inconsistencies in the Bible leave us wondering about the true nature of his role. Some scholars argue that Judas' story was manipulated over time to fit theological needs, while others believe these inconsistencies highlight the complexity of human choice and divine will. Moreover, Judas' portrayal varies between Gospels. In some, his role seems almost predestined, as if he had no choice but to betray Jesus. In others, his betrayal appears more of a deliberate act of greed. These conflicting narratives leave us asking, does the Bible contradict itself on one of its most pivotal figures? Then there's the question of Judas' motivations. Was he trying to force Jesus' hand to start a rebellion against Rome? Or was he simply consumed by greed? These questions deepen the mystery and remind us that the contradictions in the Bible often reflect the complexities of the human experience. The contradictions surrounding Judas' death and his motivations are just one of many areas where we must ask if the Bible contradicts itself. The differing accounts of his actions continue to challenge both theologians and believers, keeping the debate alive. As we've seen, the stories of controversial figures like Noah, David, and Judas are not as clear-cut as many would believe. The Bible, while revered as a sacred text, also contains contradictions, inconsistencies, and questions that have led to centuries of debate. These stories challenge us to think critically about what we've been taught and what remains hidden between the lines. So, are there truly mistakes in the Bible, or are these contradictions simply a matter of interpretation? Does the Bible contradict itself, or do these complexities enrich our understanding of faith and humanity? And what about the origins of the Bible? Could these contradictions offer clues to its formation over time? We may never have all the answers, but one thing is certain: the contradictions in the Bible invite us to question, to explore, and to seek deeper understanding. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the questions surrounding these controversial figures offer a unique opportunity to reflect on the origins of the Bible and its role in our world today. If you found this video thought-provoking, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that dives deep into Bible contradictions, historical mysteries, and the inconsistencies in the Bible you weren't told about.